In the shadows of the ancient palace, Shi Chuangkong's voice broke the silence. These talismans only last an hour. We must be swift. With those words, he swallowed a talisman, and black and white light enveloped his form, vanishing into the ether. Hanli and Fox 3, following suit, quickly disappeared as well, their presence melding with the fabric of space. Let us proceed, Shi Chuangkong intoned, guiding the trio toward the left turret. The air was thick with danger, but the armor-clad infernal servants guarding the path were weak, their senses dull, oblivious to the intruders. Within the turret, the trio quickly searched, finding only empty rooms, once belonging to the leaders of the guards. They emerged swiftly, and Shi Chuangkong transmitted, "The other turret holds no secrets. The palace is our true goal." The sight of the looming palace made Han Li's heart stir uneasily, its dim halls seeming to whisper of death, its shadows stretching like a great beast awaiting its prey. Yet he knew these were mere illusions born from his own fear. Steeling himself, he followed Shi Chuangkong into the depths of the palace, the pressure of an unseen enemy weighing heavily on his chest. The trio entered a vast cylindrical hall, the walls of which were adorned with black crystals that pulsed with an eerie light. Before them lay three paths, two leading to side halls, and one rising toward the second floor. Without hesitation, they split to inspect the side halls, finding only armor and weapons, nothing of their purpose. "It is up there," Shi Chuangkong murmured grimly. "The core is at the top. Be vigilant." They ascended the stairs, the second floor revealing more dark stone pillars etched with demonic dragons, their roars seeming to echo through the very air. At the far end of the hall, three more paths stretched out, two to side halls, and one to the third floor. Shi Chuangkong's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Spatial fluctuations! The core is near." But before they could advance, a small white blur darted from the third floor. A furry creature, small as a civet but with impossibly large eyes, frolicked about the hall. "Ignore it," Shi Chuangkong whispered. But as if sensing their presence, the creature's gaze snapped to Han Li, and white ripples erupted from its eyes, crashing toward them. "Retreat!" Shi Chuangkong barked, grabbing Fox 3 and pulling him back toward the safety of the passageway. Han Li followed swiftly, but the ripples pursued them relentlessly. Desperation flashed in Shi Chuangkong's eyes as he seized Han Li, chanting swiftly. The talismans they had ingested trembled violently before disintegrating into a surge of power. In an instant, the trio vanished into the wall, leaving no trace behind. The ripples passed through the passageway, their hunt fruitless. A moment later, the little beast cocked its head in confusion. From the third-floor passageway, a figure emerged. A tall, pale man, whose very presence exuded an aura of death. Gi Mu, a great encompassment cultivator, strode forward, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the scene. Behind him, a black-robed infernal servant approached, presenting a talisman with reverence. "Master Gui Mu, a message from the regional monarch," the servant intoned. Gui Mu accepted the talisman and crushed it with a grunt. "The preparations in the puppet fortresses are complete," he muttered, his voice like gravel scraping over stone. With that, the infernal servant bowed and disappeared into the shadows. Gui Mu, still cradling the little beast, returned to the third floor, his mind clearly occupied. Han Li, Fox 3, and Shi Chuangkong, now hidden within the walls, breathed a collective sigh of relief. "Too close," Fox 3 muttered, eyes wide with the lingering fear of their near discovery. "That beast, it sensed us immediately," Han Li observed, shaking his head. "It must be some special creature of Gui Mu's." "Indeed," Shi Chuangkong replied. "Great encompassment beings are far more perceptive than we anticipated. We were overconfident." As the trio took a moment to recover, Han Li's brow furrowed. "What happened to the talismans inside us?" Shi Chuangkong grimaced. "In the heat of the moment, I unleashed their full power, enhancing the concealment. However, their duration is now halved. We likely have only 15 minutes left." Fox 3's voice was urgent. "Then we must hurry. That beast is in Gui Mu's arms. Should we try again?" "No," Shi Chuangkong snapped. "It's too risky." Han Li's eyes gleamed with calculation. "Our only option now is to divert Gui Mu's attention. The puppet fortresses we passed earlier hold secrets the infernal tribe wishes to keep hidden. We can create a disturbance there, and Gui Mu will surely be drawn away." Fox 3's eyes widened. "You saw into those fortresses?" Han Li nodded. "I did, but we need someone closer to handle the task." Send Mo Guang and Bai Li to create the diversion. Shi Chuankong, after a moment's hesitation, agreed. A wise plan. We will have them retrieve us with the teleportation array plate once the deed is done. With their course of action decided, the trio braced themselves for what was to come, their hearts set on the perilous path ahead. The calm within the darkened hall was suddenly broken by Shi Chuankong's command. A good plan. I'll contact them now, he declared, preparing to make a hand seal, but Han Li swiftly intervened. Allow me, fellow Taoist Shi. There are crucial matters regarding the puppet refinement fortresses that must be addressed. We need to ensure a disturbance is created without revealing any trace to Gui Mu. Shi Chuankong, understanding the gravity of the situation, nodded in agreement. Han Li then reached out through their spiritual link, connecting with Mo Guang to explain their situation and their intricate plan. A puppet refinement facility? No wonder the area is heavily guarded. Stirring trouble there should be simple enough, and I can do so without leaving a single trace. However, the restrictions are formidable. Entering will be a challenge. Mo Guang responded thoughtfully. Han Li assured him, I possess a secret technique to bypass the restrictions, then relayed Shi Qinghao's method to Mo Guang. In that case, there should be no further issues, Mo Guang replied, his confidence growing. Once Guimu departed, Han Li gave the signal, and Shi Chuankong teleported Mo Guang and Bai Liyan to their side. They appeared, their expressions momentarily gleaming with success, only to quickly turn puzzled as they struggled to perceive Han Li's group, hidden by Shi Chuankong's stealthy enchantments. I've cloaked us with a secret technique, Shi Chuankong explained, a wave of his hand allowing Mo Guang and Bai Liyan to perceive faint outlines of their figures. Han Li wasted no time, his voice sharp. How did it go? It went perfectly, Mo Guang replied, a trace of satisfaction in his voice. I used my devilish secret technique to unleash a golden immortal grade beast, sending it into a frenzy within the facility, destroying arrays without leaving a trace. Excellent, Han Li acknowledged, his gaze steely. We must move swiftly to the heart of the spatial restriction. As Shi Chuankong made the necessary preparations, the group moved to the second floor. There, the doors to a side hall stood firm, a black light emanating from them as an additional barrier. Another restriction, Fox 3 exclaimed, his eyes narrowing. Han Li stepped forward, his infernal devilish eyes flashing as he inspected the ward. Leave it to me, Han Li muttered, casting a string of incantations as he pushed against the barrier with both palms. The black light flickered, then faded, and the door swung open. The group entered the side hall, where complex array patterns and light pillars stood tall, their spatial energies shimmering. At the back, on a raised platform, silver light pulsed from a strange formation of silver embryo stones. Han Li's eyes widened in recognition. These stones are rare, even in the true Immortal Realm. He noted, a flicker of surprise in his gaze. Shi Chuankong acted swiftly, sealing the silver embryo stones with silver liquid from a jade vial, causing their power to freeze and the pillar of light to die out. The task is complete. Gather, everyone, he commanded urgently, setting a silver array on the ground. Moments later, with a flash, the group vanished, leaving no trace of their presence. The silver embryo stones began to glow again, and the array hummed back to life as if nothing had ever disturbed it. The moment the spatial restriction lifted, Gui Mu materialized upon the second floor of the palace. His steps were swift. Yet upon nearing the third floor, his brow furrowed as he veered toward the left hall. He hesitated, his gaze lingering for a moment before he dismissed the thought and ascended to the third floor with resolute purpose. At the same time, Han Li and his companions emerged into a narrow alley, a flash of light heralding their arrival. The air around them felt thick, unsettling, with a sinister tinge. Han Li's expression darkened. This place. The air is foul, thick with baleful qi, Fox 3 grumbled, his eyes scanning the surroundings with discomfort. Shi Chuankong added, the temperature is unnervingly high as well. Han Li turned to Bai Liyan, his voice steady. Does the reincarnation region hold any knowledge of Asura City? Bai Liyan shook his head solemnly. The realms of the Grey Realm are fiercely territorial, and the infernal region in particular is shrouded in secrecy. Information from here is scarce. Han Li's gaze hardened. We must press on to the border. Once we bypass that, the soul-cleansing region will be within reach. Mo Guang's voice broke in, his tone wary. This area is peculiar. The buildings here form strange rings, uncharted and enigmatic. If we aim for the border, we'll have to navigate through them. The group proceeded, but soon found the streets swarming with patrols. Infernal servants, even mid-true immortals, were frequent, making progress slow. Eventually, they reached the border of the soul-cleansing area. Just as Fox 3 prepared to conceal them, Mo Guang halted the group with a sharp command. "Do not move further," he cautioned, pointing ahead. Han Li's gaze followed his direction, his frown deepening as his eyes landed on the eerie sight. Embedded in the ground near the city wall, red eyeballs the size of watermelons glowed ominously, with similar eyes scattered across the wall itself. "Those are Asura ghost eyes," Bailey Yan intoned, his voice laced with unease. "Asura ghost eyes? Will they hinder our progress?" Fox 3 asked, his tone tinged with concern. "These eyes belong to the great Asura demons," Bailey Yan explained. "Each demon possesses 3,600 such eyes, capable of piercing all illusions. Your tricks will be ineffective here." "How then can we approach the wall?" Shi Chuangkong asked, frustration evident in his tone. Just as he spoke, one of the eyes nearest to them turned, its gaze falling upon the group. Instinctively, they all suppressed their auras, retreating swiftly to a safer distance. A sudden explosion shattered the tension, sending a shockwave through the air. Startled, the group immediately sprang into action, scanning the area for threats. "Look!" Bailey Yan gestured, his face betraying a mix of curiosity and concern. Han Li turned, his eyes narrowing. A black mushroom cloud rose ominously from one of the ring-shaped buildings. His decision was swift. "Mo Guang, Bailey Yan, let us investigate. Stay hidden and await our return." With that, the trio darted towards the building, weaving through alleys to avoid detection. Upon arrival, they discovered the structure's immense height, its walls etched with runes meant for fortification. Entering cautiously, they found a large black plaza, its surface littered with massive rocks. Yet the ground was scorched, signs of recent destruction evident everywhere. Behind a relatively intact boulder, Han Li's eyes caught sight of a hole, white smoke rising from it. Before they could investigate further, a rumbling echoed, and the ground split open, revealing an underground passage. From the darkness emerged several short, green-skinned beings. Their bodies were muscular and their faces grotesque, with sharp teeth, pointed ears, and bald heads, save for a tuft of black fur. Despite their small stature, they exuded an undeniable aura of strength. Bailey Yan's voice was low, tinged with a peculiar resonance. "There's a strong karmic fire aura here." Han Li, distracted by the green-skinned beings, did not immediately respond. The leader of the group, adorned with 5 copper rings on each arm, scanned the plaza with fierce eyes, barking commands. "This is insufficient. We need more power to attract the infernal beings. Test the largest one." At his command, one of the green-skinned figures hesitated before producing a black ball from his hands. "Return to the shelter, Elder," he urged the leader. With a growl, the leader retreated into the passage, and the others followed. Meanwhile, the green-skinned figure holding the black ball began chanting. As he pressed his palm to it and hurled it into the plaza's center, the ball's surface shimmered with ominous energy. A sense of impending doom struck Han Li's heart. He raised his hand, summoning a dark green turtle shell shield in a flash. The ball detonated in a blinding explosion, sending waves of black flames rushing out in all directions. The green-skinned figure attempted to flee, but was consumed by the inferno before he could reach the underground passage. His body dissolved into a grotesque puddle. The black flames spread with terrifying speed, devouring the plaza and transforming the massive rocks into molten lava. Han Li's shield held the flames at bay, but even it began to crackle and hiss under the heat. "We must leave now," Han Li commanded, and the trio took flight, soaring out of the building just as the flames ravaged everything in their path. The explosion created a massive mushroom cloud, far more intense than before. Meanwhile, the walls and plaza seemed to absorb the destructive force, the black flames being contained within the building by strange energy fluctuations. Rejoining Shi Chuangkong and Fox 3, the latter looked puzzled. "What happened?" "We thought you had been exposed and were about to intervene." "That building," Hanli explained, appears to be a Grey Realm weapons testing site. What was that explosion? Shi Chuankong asked, his brow furrowed. An explosive artifact forged with karmic fire, Mo Guang clarified, powerful enough to threaten even true immortals. The green-skinned beings must belong to the dwarf tribe, famed for their tool refining, Han Li surmised. The dwarf tribe? Shi Chuankong exclaimed. Didn't they perish millennia ago? It seems that was a lie, Han Li said darkly. They were taken by the infernal tribe to craft their weapons. Then the rumor must be true, Bailey Yan murmured. What rumor? Fox 3 inquired, his curiosity piqued. Bailey Yan, with the weight of his knowledge, spoke calmly. Before our arrival, I uncovered a fascinating tale about the infernal tribe. It is said that within Asura City lies a karmic fire crater, where every newborn of their kind is cast to be baptized in a sacred ritual known as soul cleansing. Shi Chuankong, disbelief in his voice, questioned, They cast infants into flames? How can this be? Bailey Yan's eyes gleamed with a deep understanding. Baleful Chi is the foundation for all Grey Realm cultivators. The infernal tribe's endurance to karmic fire far surpasses ours. They do not cast the infants directly into the flames, but instead, they are raised in proximity to its presence. It is only at the age of 12 that they undergo the true baptism, where only the strongest survive to become true infernal beings. Fox 3, with a thoughtful gaze, remarked, That explains the rarity of their kind. Bailey Yan continued, Earlier, in the courtyard, I sensed a formidable karmic fire aura. It seems the source lies directly beneath us, likely in the karmic fire crater. Shi Chuankong, puzzled, asked, But if the crater is truly there, why is it hidden in the Rasham area instead of the soul cleansing area? Mo Guang's voice broke the tension, his smile serene. Do not be surprised. The crater's size and shape may span both areas. There may even be an underground passageway directing the fire into the Rashom area for refining purposes. Han Li, ever pragmatic, said, It seems we must descend into the depths. Are you suggesting we infiltrate the soul cleansing area through the underground path? Bailey Yan's eyebrow arched in inquiry. Precisely, Han Li confirmed, his tone resolute. The conventional path would be perilous, guarded by great encompassment cultivators. Our best chance lies beneath. Shi Chuankong voiced his concern. But how can we endure the karmic fire? We are not of their kind, and the baleful Qi alone worries me. Turning to Bailey Yan, Han Li asked, What solutions can you offer, fellow Taoist? Bailey Yan's eyes gleamed with the wisdom of a seasoned cultivator. Karmic fire and baleful Qi are one in essence, merely manifested in different forms. These underground flames scorch both the body and soul. The body can be shielded by treasures, but the soul is more fragile. Fox 3 sighed. So we are left with little choice but to endure the karmic flames? Not necessarily, Bailey Yan countered. Should we possess a graded immortal treasure capable of shielding the soul, it could protect us all. Han Li's lips curled into a smile as he pointed to his glabella. A radiant white rune appeared, an aura of profound spiritual sense emanating from him, rippling through the air. Everyone stood in awe as Bailey Yan gasped. Fellow Taoist Li, your spiritual sense is immense. Have you reached the 5th level of the spirit refinement technique? Han Li nodded, his expression calm yet confident. Indeed. Do you think this Imperial Peak spirit restriction talisman will suffice? The talisman, ancient and powerful, shimmered with ethereal light, and Bailey Yan, after assessing its power, nodded. This treasure is of the highest caliber. With your spiritual sense and our collective efforts, we stand a good chance. However, we still face the unknowns of the underground. Fox 3, ever the tactician, proposed, What if we disguise ourselves as infernal beings and sneak through? Shi Chuankong's brow furrowed. The aura of infernal beings is unique. A poor imitation could expose us instantly, and the consequences would be dire. Fox 3's eyes twinkled with mischief. Then allow me. With a flick of his hand, several glistening foxtails emerged, their translucent sheen glimmering in the dim light. The scent of foxes filled the air. Shi Chuankong blinked, recognizing the tails. Heavenly jade fox tails. You truly possess them? Fox 3 smiled with pride. Indeed, these are the tails of a high zenith stage senior. They hold confounding properties, and with them, we can indeed pass as infernal beings. Bailey Yan smiled in agreement. With these, we should be able to fool most observers. Han Li, ever the leader, nodded. Let's move out. The heavenly jade foxtails were distributed, their transformations complete. Mo Guang and Bai Li Yan transformed into true infernal beings, while Han Li's trio took on the guise of infernal servants, following respectfully behind. With their new forms in place, they soared through the skies toward the ring-shaped building. Below, several dwarf beings were surveying the aftermath of an explosion, and their leader greeted them with a respectful bow. Han Li's group hovered above the ground, their presence commanding yet silent. Bai Li Yan and Mo Guang nodded in acknowledgement, while the dwarf beings trembled beneath their gaze. The leader of the dwarfs, sweat beading on his brow, spoke quickly. "Forgive us for the delay. The two from the true Immortal Realm have been most uncooperative. We've only just concluded our experiments on the karmic fire baleful lightning, and it will be 3 more days before we can mass produce the weapon." Bai Li Yan's voice was cold, but steady. "Show me the way." With urgency, the dwarf leader led them to a passageway that descended into the earth. As they traveled deeper, the intense aura of karmic fire surged around them. Arriving in an enormous underground hall, they were immediately struck by the oppressive heat and dense baleful qi. The discomfort was palpable, but Mo Guang and Bai Li Yan, seasoned as they were, showed no sign of distress. The hall was lined with infernal servants, their faces impassive as they bowed respectfully. They ventured deeper into the heart of the facility, the sounds of metal striking metal growing louder. Passing through several cavernous halls, Han Li caught glimpses of dwarf beings tirelessly refining treasures, with immense furnaces burning with scorching karmic flames at their center. The sight of such raw power was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Finally, they arrived at the largest hall, where the karmic fire baleful lightning was being crafted. The air was thick with intensity, and the sounds of labor filled the space. One of the dwarfs, in his haste, accidentally spilled a container of karmic fire, sending it spilling toward Han Li's group. The sight was chaotic as the dwarf scrambled to recover it, only to receive a swift punishment from an infernal servant. The echoes of the scene reverberated through the cavern as the fires of karmic destiny continued to blaze. The karmic flames, like restless serpents, had already reached Mo Guang. With an almost casual flick, he bent down, drawing the fiery essence into his palm as if it were naught but clay. He toyed with it for a brief moment, then cast it back into the great furnace. The infernal servant faltered for an instant, but quickly recovered, offering an apologetic salute to Mo Guang. With a swift crack of his whip, it coiled around the neck of the dwarf being, who was already pale with pain, his body trembling in torment as he struggled against the constricting lash. The dwarf who had led Han Li's group here watched helplessly, his face twisted with sorrow, but he dared not intervene. "Enough. Present the finished product," commanded Bai Li Yan. The infernal servant, his expression as cold as ever, withdrew the whip. The freed dwarf immediately fell to his knees, bowing deeply in gratitude. Another dwarf swiftly approached, bearing several orbs of karmic fire baleful lightning. Bai Li Yan inspected one, his brow furrowing in confusion. "There's something unusual here. A blend of fire law powers within the lightning," he remarked to Han Li. "Perhaps it is connected to those Immortal Realm figures the dwarf mentioned. These flames may be infused with fire law, which strengthens the lightning. Take them with you," Han Li suggested. Bai Li Yan stowed the orbs, his mind still puzzled, then turned to Mo Guang. "We've come this far. We should inspect the karmic fire crater." Mo Guang nodded, his reply indifferent. "Lead the way." The infernal servant guided them out of the hall, and as they departed, Han Li glanced back, catching the resentful glare of the dwarf who had led them. The dwarf's expression quickly shifted to one of horror when their gazes met, but Han Li simply turned away, leaving the dwarf to his confusion. The passage ahead stretched for miles, finally opening into a vast underground cavern. A great fiery pit lay before them, its black flames swirling in a deadly dance. The air was thick with baleful qi, choking all who ventured near. The path narrowed as it led to a bridge, stretching precariously over the abyss, ending at a towering black rock wall. From a massive hole in the rock, karmic fire poured into the pit below, feeding its fury. "Just as you suspected, fellow Taoist Li," Shi Chuankong remarked, his voice low. "The fire here comes from the soul-cleansing area." "Not so fast. Fox 3 warned, his voice tinged with caution. The baleful chi will soon sap the energy of our heavenly jade foxtails. We must move quickly. Hanli was about to respond when something caught his eye. A dozen armored infernal servants stood on the bridge ahead, weapons in hand, their cold stares fixed on Hanli's group. Beneath them, a cage hung suspended, swaying above the churning fire. Within it, two figures, frail and disheveled, barely clung to life. One was a tall man, his red hair obscuring his face, but his protruding nose gave him away. The other, more familiar, was immortal Lord Hot Flame, his once pristine visage now marred by cuts and wounds, his eyes dull with defeat. Fox 3 recognized them first. Those two, Chi Rong and fellow Taoist Hot Flame. Shi Chuankong muttered, "They were less fortunate than us." Bailey Yan, unfamiliar with them, asked, "Are they friends? Should we rescue them?" Han Li, his mind troubled, hesitated. "They've been heavily restricted. It would take time to free them. For now, let us focus on reaching the baleful cleansing pond." "Should we act now?" Mo Guang inquired. "Yes," Han Li answered, his voice hard. Mo Guang's lips twisted into a cold smile, and with a casual gesture, black mist poured from his sleeve, forming into 5 fierce dragons that rushed toward the infernal servant guiding them. The servant barely had time to react before the mist engulfed him, draining his life force in an instant. In mere moments, the infernal servant was reduced to a shriveled husk, and the others met a similar fate, their bodies kicked into the fiery pit. The group descended to the ground, and Han Li's gaze lingered on the metal cage. His hesitation was brief, but then he moved on, stepping past the prisoners without a word. Inside, immortal Lord Hot Flame remained unaware, his vacant eyes staring into the abyss. Chi Rong, his voice raspy and bitter, spoke, "Aren't you allies of my senior martial brother? Why not rescue him?" Fox 3 paused, but Shi Chuankong urged him on. "We don't have time now. We'll return for them later." At the end of the bridge, the air was thick with hostile energy. The heat of the karmic fire and the pressure of the baleful chi began to take its toll, and even Han Li found it difficult to maintain his focus. The others were similarly struggling. Without hesitation, Han Li activated the spirit refinement technique, his finger tracing a symbol on his brow. Instantly, the Imperial Peak Spirit Restriction Talisman flared to life, releasing a burst of spiritual sense that formed a protective shield around the group. Bailey Yan donned a suit of black dragon-scale armor, while Fox 3 imbued his body with a green light from a jewel on his head, enveloping him in a bright green aura. Shi Chuankong summoned his silver lute, strumming it to create a spatial barrier. Mo Guang, unaffected, let the baleful chi wash over him. Han Li's body was soon covered in golden scales, and his dark green turtle shell armor emerged, solidifying his protection. Together, they injected their spiritual sense into the talisman, which glowed brighter, projecting a snowy mountain that shielded them all. As they advanced, Han Li cautioned, "Stay alert." Karmic fire is far more invasive than baleful chi. A single lapse could be catastrophic. They took a deep breath and leapt from the bridge, hurtling toward the massive hole in the rock where karmic fire surged forth. Just as they approached, the fire began to stir. "A restriction!" Han Li shouted. Before he could finish speaking, the karmic flames churned violently, and massive orbs of black fire erupted toward them, filling the air with poisonous fumes.